welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Terrence Wampler. Now, for CFOs, these recent times have likely been career-defining. Research has shown companies that outperform their peers while navigating a crisis will set the pace for the years ahead. And today, CEOs and boards are looking to CFOs to do just that. That's because now is the time for CFOs to define the next normal, which means moving from a sole focus of maximizing shareholder value to addressing a much broader set of stakeholder values. Finance leaders must take bold actions right now to reimagine their companies for success in a post-pandemic economy. From things like investing in a data-rich technology platform and ecosystem, to supporting digital business models, to even investing in people and purpose to promote a more inclusive and sustainable world. And to better understand what role technology plays in helping CFOs define the next normal, I'd like to invite my colleague and friend, Alex Jakubowicz, to join me here on stage. Welcome.
Thanks, Terrence. It's great to be with everyone today, and I'm excited to be part of this conversation to share Workday's vision and strategy for the Office of the CFO. For our discussion around the expectations and opportunities for CFOs today, Terrence and I will look at how CFOs can leverage technology when it comes to managing shareholder value and the more recent focus on stakeholder values. We know CFOs focus on maximizing shareholder value, an area that's considered table stakes and will always be core to the CFO agenda. Here, we'll discuss growing revenue, containing costs, and balancing capital. But the CFO agenda is expanding, with new expectations related to a broader set of stakeholders and what they value most. These stakeholders include suppliers, employees, customers, the environment, and many others. And these stakeholders are expecting more focus on sustainability, talent acquisition, and digital acceleration. As we discuss shareholder and stakeholder areas, we'll highlight how Workday supports the Office of the CFO today and what we're planning on for the future.
Yeah, that's right, Alex. Thank you so much. Revenue is all about growth. And as companies navigate current uncertainties, many leaders have looked at growth to help them quickly recover revenues and steady their business. For others, growth is a way to gain market share, capitalize on disruptions in consumer behavior, or lay the foundation for sustained success in the post-pandemic era. Now, successful growth requires striking the right balance between quick wins, say within 3 months, medium-term operational improvements that span maybe 3 to 9 months, and the longer-term, more strategic initiatives like your 1 to 3 year plans. There's a 2021 study by the IMA that found a strong correlation between high-performing FP&A teams and revenue growth. The companies with high-performing FP&A teams had 21% revenue growth versus 4% for those with low-performing teams. So what are those FP&A teams going to do to model revenue? Well, there's a number of things CFOs and FP&A teams can do and are doing, and one of the most impactful is to model multiple revenue scenarios. With Workday, customers model and execute on short, medium, and long-term scenarios, incorporating financial and operational data and performing what-if comparisons. Workday Planning's powerful yet flexible platform supports unlimited drivers to quickly pivot as things change. And Workday Financial Management easily executes the approved plans by establishing and tracking new business models, new revenue streams, onboarding acquisitions, and even doing geographic expansion. Now, as we look forward, we're continuing our focus on further scaling our modeling engine to meet the needs of the largest and most complex organizations. And we plan to enhance support for subscription and consumption-based billing models to help organizations address new revenue streams and evolving billing strategies. But many customers are leveraging Workday today to improve their performance of their FP&A team, and Christiana Care is one of them. They took only 4 days to shift from annual to month-to-month planning during this pandemic. And that's amazing when you consider that many companies had to rip up their revenue plans when the pandemic hit and start over. Some businesses, their revenues declined substantially, which can be catastrophic when you have a lot of fixed costs. Hey, speaking of costs, let's bring back Alex, who's a bit of an expert on this topic. Alex, I think you're a little bit about keeping costs in check, aren't you?
I sure do know quite a bit about it, Terrence, and my amazing wife can attest to what a stickler I am about staying on budget. But of course, that's not what we're talking about today. When we think about managing costs, it's not just about controlling spend, but about creating a culture that's aware of how discretionary spend impacts the bottom line. It may be easiest to establish the sense of stewardship in times of growth, but it's absolutely crucial during disruptive times. A recent PwC survey found 37% of CFOs ranked reducing cost as a percentage of total revenue as a top priority. When we look at those organizations that are successful at optimizing spend and driving predictable cash flow, one of the biggest opportunities to manage discretionary spend lies with your suppliers and procurement practices. A great way to bring more spend under management is by getting more of your spend under contract. Sourcing enables a collaborative platform for building stronger supplier relationships and allowing for comprehensive bid comparisons, scenario modeling, and savings calculations that result in significant savings from better negotiated contracts. Workday also supports the complete source-to-pay process by providing an intuitive buying experience for employees, automated invoicing for the payables team, and a single payment engine to drive savings directly to the bottom line. I would be remiss if I did not mention our capabilities to drive predictable cash flow. Our robust cash forecasting and modeling and cash management function manages all cash inflows and outflows, providing complete visibility so you can easily manage your liquidity and optimize working capital. As we look to the future, we will be providing innovations such as something we're calling a concierge experience. Imagine your employees logging into Workday with the intention to buy something, simply stating their needs, and the system does the rest, similar to going to the hotel concierge and asking for a dinner reservation. That is the simplicity and experience we look to achieve. We will also continue to expand visibility into all aspects of spend data, including third-party supplier data to help teams drive greater business impact, such as areas to improve spend under contract and supplier risks that could impact future revenue growth. What I really love most is sharing how our customers are achieving value and seeing real results today. So I'm delighted to share that our customer Unum has leveraged Workday to improve total spend under contract and avoid maverick spending by $2.5 million. Okay, Terrence, costs have now been contained. Back over to you.
All right, that's great, Alex. Everything sounds great that you talked about there. Now, does this solution prevent maverick spending by college-age children?
I wish, but we'll maybe put it on the roadmap.
All right, I really appreciate that. Thank you. All right, so we've discussed growing revenue and containing costs in isolation. But now let's talk a little bit about how those two come together as CFOs work to maximize their ROI. As you look across business, how do you deploy capital most effectively to drive returns? In other words, where should a CFO invest? It's a simple question, but a study of over 2,000 companies in 2018 found that firms earned on average less than 2% above their cost of capital. That's just too close for comfort. We think of it this way. A CFO is the guardian of the capital that he or she has been entrusted with. The minimum standard is to earn at least the same rate it costs the firm to borrow or pay its equity holders. And the best way to get higher ROI across the company is to break down those investments into manageable chunks, like new capital projects or lines of business, where you can plan and monitor ROI for each project. So how can Workday help? First, planning in Workday can help organizations get the most return from their capital investments with improved forecasting of capital expenses, effective and efficient capital project planning, and of course, fast and accurate reporting and analysis for the complete life cycle of your capital assets. You can also plan and model capital asset acquisitions, automate depreciation methods, and gain complete visibility into the impact of capital on your financial statements. Now, this is just one part of our continuous and company-wide planning approach. So let's look at an example. TELUS, a Canadian telecommunication giant, knows all about capital investments. To keep pace with their increased demand, the company undertook a multi-billion-dollar infrastructure project, one with shifting deadlines, changing budgets, and of course, lots of execution challenges. So they were charged with tracking everything from labor costs to shifting weather patterns to even environmental factors. Project managers soon realized that tracking the project in spreadsheets was just too time-consuming and error-prone. So they turned to Workday for help. And now with Workday Planning, they were able to drive annual variance to less than 1%, and for some drivers even lower. And quite frankly, that is remarkable. So that's how we're addressing shareholder value. But now, let's try to turn our attention to managing stakeholder values.
Yes, Terrence, this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. In fact, For those that don't know my background, I'm one of the founders of Scout RFP, a company Workday acquired in 2019. When Workday was looking to purchase Scout, a key factor for a successful acquisition was to think beyond shareholder value and financial success. Workday knew that they had to consider stakeholders, the people, the culture, the outside market, and ensure that acquiring Scout would be a good culture fit and would promote long-term resilience. And we at Scout felt the same way. We wanted to join a company where we knew we could do more together than apart, where banding together could help us with long-term sustainability for our people, the economy, and the environment around us. And I'm here to say that it is a great fit. And we know that we are not the only ones looking at business this way. Shareholders and stakeholders are putting increased pressure on organizations to generate not only financial impact, but environmental and social as well. While this momentum has been building for years, it's even more crucial now that companies can link performance to environmental, social, and governance ratings. In fact, NYU Stern and Rockefeller recently published a meta-study that showed a positive correlation between ESG and financial performance. So, Terrence, what are we doing today to support ESG initiatives?
Yeah, well, before I jump into ESG, I just want to endorse, you guys have been an amazing fit. So. Super glad to have you.
Thanks, Terrence.
It's awesome. All right, so now this is how we look at ESG. First, it's all about data and defining and centralizing all ESG-related data. So let's start with Workday could be a familiar place for worker and finance data today, and an ideal platform where you can seamlessly capture and store additional data elements and metrics needed for ESG disclosures. Data that you could track would include things like a carbon footprint, climate change, even risk to supply chain, and of course, science-based target tracking, all through a configurable dashboard. And this is just the data part of the story. There's a whole other piece that CFOs need to consider, and that's how they operationalize sustainability into their day-to-day operations. Alex, your team's been working on some of these processes.
Yes, we have. For supplier engagement and diversity, finance, procurement, and sustainability teams can work together to ensure that all the companies you work with meet your expectations for sustainability. This could include tracking vendor participation in company sustainability initiatives or leveraging third-party sustainability ratings to evaluate supplier performance. Our sourcing platform makes it simple to collect this information from suppliers and surface it to decision makers. Terrence, I've mentioned supplier diversity, but another critical element of ESG reporting is related to employee diversity. What are we doing there?
Yeah, hopefully a lot. I mean, let's start with for belonging and inclusion initiatives, Workday captures many demographic dimensions, like ethnicity, like veteran, disability, and marital status, and many more, as well as the intersections between these dimensions. So Workday's Vibe Index methodology reveals patterns and insights for different employee groups, which may mean the difference between glossing over a problem and identifying areas of risk. For example, if women executives feel they're underpaid, it will highlight this trend and allow you to act on it. The benefit? You're addressing the concern and moving towards a solution before it becomes a serious problem. So Alex, can you share some customer examples of both supplier and employee diversity?
Absolutely. An insurance company impacted by a new state law used Workday Strategic Sourcing to survey all their suppliers around diversity standards, status, and practices. The team was incredibly happy with the initial 32% response rate and how easy it was to standardize a survey to such a large group of vendors. Fugoro's diversity and inclusion roadmap is designed to support its aspiration to build a diverse talent pipeline and create a culture of fairness and inclusion. With Workday, they've been able to gain visibility and measure their diversity against the goals to empower meaningful progress. And speaking of employees, Terrence, we know talent is another high priority for the Office of the CFO.
Oh yes, Alex, it certainly is. And as CFOs focus on the future, they're thinking about what kind of skill sets and experience they need to recruit in the rapidly emerging recovery, and where and how to secure and retain that talent. A recent Prudential survey of employed adults in the United States found that 1 in 4 professionals plans to look for opportunities with a new employer once the pandemic subsides. And according to the Financial Times, just under 40% of UK and Irish workers say they'll resign this year, or once the economy is stronger. Now, there are a few areas that can give your organization an edge in a hiring market that's heating up. One thing we've learned is a good software user experience translates to a great employee experience. So at Workday, we prioritize developing products that will first improve employee engagement while also automating important processes, all with the goal to unlock employee potential faster. So whether it's leveraging technologies like machine learning for intelligent process automation, enabling teams to work smarter and not harder, or it's accessing the power as an analytic foundation to efficiently ingest and transform high volumes of operational activity into journal entries to free up teams for manual work, all of these examples speak to our commitment to making solutions for accounting and finance teams that enjoy using them. Now, if accounting and finance professionals have access to modern systems, they'll need to build their knowledge around technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, and analytics, which are all having a huge impact on their roles. So today, with Workday, employees can grow their skills through short-term gigs. They can easily search for gigs, or Workday will even surface recommended gigs based on desired skills. And when it comes to advancement, Workday Learning is the perfect place to credentialize their skills and experience, to take with them or publicize for external use.
Another place where Workday shines as organizations look to attract the next generation of talent is support for a hybrid work environment, one where working remotely, either full-time or a few days a week, is quickly becoming the norm. A cloud-based system with an intuitive and familiar user experience is key in supporting remote employees. For procurement, we've simplified the supplier onboarding process to reduce the time spent collecting and validating data. We also provide innovative technologies like Workday Chat and a modern buying experience to ease the procurement process. On the employee front, we added the employee voice that provides recommendations to managers to support and empower their employees. And to support a culture that continues to innovate, we know communication and collaboration tools are essential. That's why we made sure that Workday can extend its user experience to workplaces like Slack and Microsoft Teams. In fact, we're doubling down on our innovation with digital workspaces. We're excited to share the next tool we are integrating with is Microsoft Connections as part of recently launched Microsoft Viva. Terrence, as an executive, can you share some of your insights around this topic?
Yeah, sure. So when we start to talk about employees, one of the things that's happening today is, and I think you share this, Alex, some of our employees are worried about a safe work environment, about adaptable work schedules to work around issues they may have with schooling and other things. They're very much worried about whether they can work remotely and whether they have the tools correctly to do that. But most importantly, what I'm hearing now is they're most interested in learning, spending time investing, innovating, learning, and they're not asking us for additional time to do that. What they're asking for is for better tools and processes for them to be able to spend time on that type of work, which then gives us better products or processes internally, even in development. And I think that's going to apply to the Office of the CFO the same as it does to our development organizations. I'm sure you feel the same way.
Absolutely. But employees are not the only stakeholder group that will benefit from a modern system with a great user experience. Our final stakeholder value is accelerating your digital initiatives, something that affects all stakeholders in a company's ecosystem. Shareholders, employees, customers, suppliers, and our communities all benefit when you invest in transforming back office processes and systems. So what's at stake for today's CFO? Everything. According to KPMG, 67% of CFOs say they're losing ground and believe they will become irrelevant if they don't adapt. The good news? According to the Hackett Group, 74% say that the pandemic has accelerated the digitization of operations and the creation of a next-gen operating model.
Wow. And the benefits of that new operating model are many. So next-generation technology is now considered table stakes to not only survive, but thriving in the new normal of uncertainty. And I think we'd all agree that when uncertainty is the norm, what worked in the past becomes irrelevant. Agility is the new norm and your safest harbor. And speaking of agility, there are a number of approaches an organization can take on their finance transformation journey. Whether that's a complete finance transformation, moving your corporate finance team to the cloud, maybe starting your journey by moving your financial planning or sourcing processes to the cloud, or even moving a newly formed business unit or one that's performing very well up to the cloud. Workday has a solution to meet you where you are. And as an example, we have a retailer, Zumiez, who always prioritizes speed in serving their customers and quickly adapting to changing conditions. Their success depends on their ability to anticipate and respond to their customers' needs. And by adopting industry-leading technology, their finance and accounting teams are equipped to better serve the business. All right, there's a common anecdote in real estate around its location, location, location. Today, for us in the enterprise finance and systems world, it's data, data, data. So a common thread that we've discussed and is linked throughout this intrinsically in today's conversation is data. So the appetite for data from shareholders and stakeholders is growing geometrically, as is the availability of that data from multiple sources. Today, we talked about revenue and the need for unlimited drivers to continuously model multiple scenarios. We talked about the top things that contribute to costs and how to contain them. We talked about how these two, revenue and costs, come together to maximize ROI. And we even talked about that sustainability brings even more data to consider when you look at environmental, social, and governance information. And finally, we talked about how you need to ensure you have the talent with the skills needed to understand and interpret that data. And oh, by the way, that list goes on and on. The challenge, now more than ever, is how to harness the power of all that data and efficiently transform it into insights ranging from financial statement analysis to ESG disclosures to ever-evolving changing regulations, all without overwhelming your team with multiple tools to access, report, and analyze that data. And managing data is made so much easier with a modern system that was architected to accelerate your digital transformation and turn that data into trusted insights. Insights you can access in real time. And because we're continuously innovating, like adding artificial intelligence and machine learning, the data gets smarter and smarter over time. So now, when you become a Workday customer, you're entering into a long-term partnership and all the future benefits to come. So Alex, it's been great chatting with you.
Thanks, Terrence. We look forward to working with you, and have a great Workday.